Hi, my name is Chris Munns. I'm the chairperson of the Hampton Town Democratic Committee. I'm here today with our 5 candidates for state representative for a discussion about some of the important issues facing our state and our community. 4 of these candidates are running for the 4 seats that represent just Hampton. They are State Representative Renny Cushing, State Representative Mike Edgar, Katherine Harake, and State Representative Loughman. Our 5th candidate is former State Representative Elaine Ahearn, who is running to once again represent Hampton, Hampton Falls, and Seabrook. Tom, New Hampshire has the 3rd oldest population on average in the country. As one of the new generation of leaders that are emerging in the state, what do you think we need to do to retain and attract young families to our state?
Thanks, Chris. And first, I want to emphasize how important this is. It's really an economic imperative. When you look at the age of our population, sometimes it's the oldest, sometimes it's the 2nd oldest. Right now, it's the 3rd oldest. That's progress, I suppose. When you look at our workforce, the workforce that the demographic that makes up the largest part of our workforce is very close to retiring out. And we do not have sufficient numbers of people from the younger generations to fill even their shoes. So if you're a business in New Hampshire looking to grow, it's a huge constraint. Finding the workforce to grow is a huge constraint. It's also a very limiting factor for businesses who are maybe looking to expand into New Hampshire. It's quickly becoming the first question businesses ask. Does it have the talent and the people that we need to succeed here? So it's essential that we solve this problem, that we retain our young people and attract working families to the Granite State. I think first is we need strong public schools. We need to protect our schools, provide more state funding for public schools, not less. This ensures lower property taxes, better education. There have been efforts in the past legislature, which was led by Republicans, to divert and siphon funds away from public schools for other forms of education which have no accountability and don't follow the same standards that our public schools are held to. And that's simply not a level playing field. And it does not allow for the kind of quality education that folks in Hampton have come to expect. Also, affordable housing. So I was one of 4 legislators initially invited to work with the governor's housing task force in the last term. And we looked at some of the challenges and the suggestions to increase housing supply and affordable housing supply. And one of the things that I identified and wanted to address was that in many communities across the state, Exeter is a good example, there were incentives being offered exclusively for the development of age-restricted housing, so 55 and over. And the reason that's problematic is that it essentially was becoming a zero-sum game where that kind of housing was being developed almost exclusively and at the detriment of other kinds of housing being developed and made available. And so that's a problem. We need to make sure that if we're going to be offering incentives, we're offering incentives for other kinds of development too, or none at all. So we want that kind of level playing field. We want to be able to produce the housing supply that New Hampshire needs and deserves. Also, family-friendly economics. We should deliver on paid family medical leave. Too many people are choosing between their career or being a parent at a time when the economy demands we do both. I can't tell you how many people have had their first child and realized that it would be cheaper to leave their job and become stay-at-home parents than it would be to pay for childcare, which is one of the largest and fastest growing budgetary items in households today. And we're seeing what a problem that is for folks. And so paid family medical leave is something you contribute 0.5% of your wages. And the benefit means if you ever need to care for yourself or a loved one, or you have the birth of a child, you can get up to 12 weeks leave at 60% wages. Excellent benefit. Every state who has implemented this, it's been successful, it's been popular. We know Granite Staters were on it. We know that our governors ran on it twice. He's also vetoed it twice. So that's a problem, and we need to deliver on that promise. Affordable college, we are one of the most, in terms of state public universities, New Hampshire is one of the lowest in terms of the funding it provides to its state universities. That results in graduates leaving with some of the highest student debt loads. This is a bad deal for the children who we raise and educate here. We are providing them with a lousy value proposition, and many of them are having to leave the state to get the education they want. And I know that families like mine would like nothing more than to have our children stay here, stay close, raise their families too. And we want them to have that opportunity. So these are some of the key factors in creating opportunities for working families, keeping our young people here, attracting the workforce we need to New Hampshire, and growing our economy. And they are inseparable. And of course, we talked about the rail trail, which is yet another very attractive thing to offer to young people, to bring them to our community. Right behind the number one factor that parents use to choose where to live, and that is the quality of our schools, which Hampton can be very proud.
Katherine, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I'm a little bit older than Tom, but I think I'm young enough still to have some opinions on the matter. He's right. I just think it's such a bad investment of us to put so much investment into our students from kindergarten to high school, and then they leave. What kind of investment is that? You're getting a zero return on it. They're going to Massachusetts, they're going to West Coast, they're going south. That's a terrible return on your investment. And when you see them on Thanksgiving or 1 week in the summer so they can go to Hampton Beach, this is not smart. How can we get people want to stay here? I think more people are afraid that they won't be able to live here in the future, or their kids won't be able to live here. So we're not magicians or politicians, or we're legislators. We can't wave a magic wand, but we got to talk about it. How can we bring more business here? What kind of incentives? How can we make remote working better? Do we need more connectivity? How can we make these communities like Hampton attractive to company owners? They want to live, they want to bring their businesses where they want to live. What type of culture, what type of rail to trail, what type of safety, what type of inclusiveness do we have that we're going to attract a businesses that give jobs? So these are discussions that are so essential to Democrats, to everybody. And I really want to see young people, professionals, and people that want to stay, be able to stay here and study here and work here.
Great. Mike, your thoughts?
The aspect of our property taxes affects people so much that it's one of the things to really consider. And I know that Renny has pushed over the years many different programs, or fought against some of the downshifting as it happens in this state. It seems that one party, if instead of raising taxes, they just downshift, and then in a sense they are down, they're not decreasing our taxes, they're increasing our taxes. So it's really important to continue to try to do as much as we can to stop the downshifting and of actual things, and also cutting off all the programs that we had, whether it was school aid or others, that all the revenue sharing, that Renny mentioned at different times, that we have to do everything we can to stop that, and to generate somehow more money through business or what, so that for the state to help pay for things instead of having it downshifted to the towns, which the crippling housing, property taxes, because it not only hurts with the people, the young people who look at it, the overall situation, how much it's going to cost, but some of the elderly who, they all of a sudden they're in a house and they're paying outrageous, taxes compared to what they used to pay, and they're just not set up economically to be able to pay for them. So that's the way, one of the things I like to add to the conversation.
Okay. Elaine, what would you like to add?
Well, I've been concerned about this for a long time, and affordable housing in New Hampshire is just non-existent. I have a grandson who just graduated from UNH. He's a marine biologist. He has almost $100,000 in school loans. He would love to live here. He has 3 roommates and they have looked all over the place. They're going to look in Amesbury or someplace in Massachusetts because they absolutely cannot afford to live here. I've met many young families who want to come and raise their children in the wonderful school systems that we have here on the Seacoast and in Southern New Hampshire. And I've been told over and over again, I can either pay a mortgage or I can pay the property taxes or I can pay my school loans, but that's all, I can't possibly do all 3 of those things. So we're making it prohibitive by the very nature of how we're constructed to keep people here. And I know my grandson would love to live here. And he said, unless I can live with you, that's pretty much the only way I'm ever going to be able to stay in this part of New Hampshire. And I don't see anything happening in the affordable housing industry that in any way. And Tom's right, there are so many very nice condo developments. They're all 55 and older, and they start at price ranges that young families couldn't even afford, even if they weren't. So we have to find solutions to this. I'm not saying I have one, but it's a huge problem in New Hampshire. And
Elaine, you're right. If you didn't have 100,000 in student debt from a state school,
right, exactly.
So we're literally passing a hot potato. You know, you just ignore a problem; it doesn't go away. Everything, you know, it just manifests in a different place down the line. So
all of these kids have huge school loans, all of them, no matter what they made, and they all went to UNH, and they have enormous student debt, and it's literally hanging around their neck. They can't envision how they can accomplish any of the things they want to accomplish unless they can find a way to get over this enormous thing that's in front of them. I owe $100,000 to, it's very frightening when you're a 23-year-old kid and trying to think about going to grad school.
Renny,
So-
I know you've got some thoughts on this, Renny.
Well, we need 20,000 affordable housing units in the state of New Hampshire at a minimal, and that's what our deficit is right now. And I also realize that, you know, we make decisions about where our priorities are. I had the experience of my daughter graduating from UMass, and it was cheaper for her to go to UMass than it was to UNH, which stuck with me. But I also recognize that the state of New Hampshire spends $123 million a year on its Department of Corrections, while it only spends $80 million a year on our state university system, which means that for every dollar we spend to keep somebody in a jail cell, for every dollar we spend on a college classroom, we spend $1.50 on prison cells. That's not a sustainable model. And there is a relationship between the amount of money that we spend on our criminal justice system and the amount of money that we spend on our education system. And it's not sustainable if we don't see education as an investment, not as a cost center. You know, I'm fortunate because I was raised in Hampton. I'm a product of Hampton Public Schools. My father's a product of public Hampton schools. My daughters all went to Hampton Public Schools. I don't know if grandchildren will be able to live in the community in which for 3 generations we've lived in, so that we can also enjoy the benefit. And I think particularly coming from Hampton, we have a unique responsibility as the town that was the first community in the state to offer free public education to both sexes. That's part of the legacy. We have a responsibility to live up to that, so that can be available to everybody in the future.
Can I add one more detail or wrinkle here? Just to sort of frame the choice that voters have. Before Democrats took the House and the Senate in the last election, Republicans had it before. And on the issue of making kindergarten, full day kindergarten, fully funded, Republicans were only willing to do it if towns were willing to implement Keno to help pay for it. And so that was their value proposition. If you're willing to accept additional gambling, well, then we'll make an investment in education of children. That is ludicrous to me. And one of the things that we did was make sure it was fully funded regardless, because that's the kind of society we want to live in. And that's the kind of society that I think our children deserve. And so that's one of the choices that people have. How much do your legislators and your candidates value your children's future?
Well, I think that's a conversation. So thank you all. For more information on these candidates and others that are running for office this year, you can go to our website, www.hamptonnhdems.org, or visit our Facebook page at Hampton Dems. Stay safe and please make sure to vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.